Dan, what would you say is one of some of the biggest financial lessons you learned transitioning from, being a healthcare executive to now being a real estate entrepreneur?
No matter how much you think something is going to be, times it by 2, especially when you're starting a company. It is not cheap to start a company. It takes most successful entrepreneurs 2 years to build a business that actually starts making money.
Dan Fabrizi is a purpose-driven entrepreneur, blending real estate, senior living, and media. From scaling senior living operations across 4 states to running Berg 2 Bay Partners in Florida, Dan's mission is simple: build what matters, tell the truth, and lead with purpose.
Teamwork makes the dream work. And one of the things I like to tell people is the Berg 2 Bay name. It means I came from Pittsburgh to Tampa Bay, but the number 2 always represents me plus somebody else or something else, because I've never succeeded in anything just doing it on my own.
What would you say if for someone who's looking to become a real estate entrepreneur?
Super important thing is to be authentic. Most smart businessmen and women know when you're full of it. The advice is know yourself, get to know people, treat people well. It's not worth saving a couple $1,000s over to ruin a relationship.
Hey, everyone out there. My name is Alan, CEO of FreeCashflow.io. Welcome to Profit Powerhouse, the podcast where we sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs to uncover the secrets behind their success. We're here to learn what drives their growth, the challenges they overcome, and how they master their finances. Our goal: to help you achieve the same success while maximizing your profit. Let's dive in. Today's guest is a powerhouse at the intersection of real estate, healthcare, and purpose-driven leadership. Dan Fabrizi is a real estate entrepreneur, senior living consultant, and mental health advocate based in Tampa, Florida. He's the founder of Berg 2 Bay Partners, a firm that's flipping properties, building from the ground up, and dominating the short-term rental game across Airbnb and Vrbo. But Dan's journey goes far beyond real estate. He previously served as Senior VP of Seacoast Health Systems, overseeing a $75 million portfolio across 4 states and leading one of Florida's most effective COVID response units, safely managing care for over 1,200 seniors during the height of the pandemic. A former ESPN radio host, lifelong mentor, and fierce supporter of mental health causes, Dan is passionate about impacting the business he's in. He's been recognized as one of Tampa Club's 42 under 42 and continues to use his platform to inspire entrepreneurs, leadership, and authentic service. Get ready for a conversation that bridges business with heart. Let's dive in with the one and only Dan Fabrizi. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Did you get all of that on the bio? That was great, man. Thanks for that bio. That was an awesome introduction.
I didn't want to miss anything.
No, you nailed it.
I didn't want to miss anything. What a fascinating journey here. So
Thanks.
Can you share with our audience a little bit more about your background, really what inspired you to start your entrepreneur journey?
Sure. I could give you the 2-hour version, but I'll stick it to about a 5-minute version.
Okay.
So I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've been in Tampa coming up on 12 years now. And when I was in Pittsburgh, I came from a very sports-rich family, diehard hockey fans, diehard football fans. And so I really thought my path growing up was going to be in the sports field. And lucky enough, through my caddying at Oakmont Country Club, which I did for 14 summers, I was able to meet the program director that worked at ESPN at the time. This is back in like the 2010, 2011. And he gave me a shot on the radio, and I did about 8 months on professional radio on ESPN radio, did the primetime slot, the 6 to 9 slot at night, and got about 6-7 months in and realized wasn't really my jam, right? Like I love doing sports talk radio, but a lot of politics, a lot of like really being on the ground level. And we were talking about a lot of things that I really didn't care about at the time. So I think at that point I realized, okay, sports are going to be kind of a hobby, kind of something that I love to talk about, but the goal was something bigger for me. And so I decided to make the move to Florida in 2013 and started in the healthcare field, kind of with not much of a plan. And I kind of just, stuck my nose down and grinded and met a lot of people. And you're going to see throughout this conversation that my core thing that I've always done my whole life is build and maintain relationships. And so being able to do that, I quickly ascended through the senior living space, which never had the plan to do that, right? Like I didn't grow up and be like, when I grow up, I would have been in the senior living space. Like that was never the plan. But
many little kids' dreams there.
Exactly, right? So it just turned out that way, that I was given an opportunity. I did it pretty well. Then I met somebody else, and I met somebody else, and then I met somebody else. And before you know it, I was able to meet my former business partner, Mark, and we were kind of managing a building, and then COVID hit. And we got the opportunity to run the state's first assisted living based COVID program for residents in other communities that were going to the hospital that were asymptomatic. But as we saw in New York and other states, when you send those people back, they can infect other people. Those people may not be so lucky to be non-symptomatic, and people die because of that. What we did at our establishment was we took those asymptomatic patients, kept them out of the hospital to not fill up beds, brought them to our place, took care of them for the 10-day incubation period, and then sent them back to their respective communities. And we did a really great job. And needless to say, that was kind of the springboard that really propelled me into senior leadership. I ran and maintained the COVID wing from start to finish. Dealt with all the major hospitals here in Tampa Bay, built really good relationships with them. And so we made really good, money from taking care of a lot of people. So that kind of is the point where I realized, okay, maybe there's something bigger for me out there. And so I got into the senior living space as a senior VP for the company. We grew into multiple states. We picked up multiple buildings, but it just got to the point where I felt like I had maybe hit my ceiling in senior living and I had more to give maybe outside of that space. So in 2023, January of 23, I started Berg Bay Partners. And the idea off the jump was we were just going to be a consulting company. I had a lot of relationships, a lot of people that I had worked with throughout my career. And I thought to myself, one of these things is going to work, right? Was it a little bit risky? Of course it's risky. I left a very well-paying job, very comfortable, but comfortable is not in my core. I'm not like, if I'm comfortable, that means I need to be doing something else. So started Berg Bay Partners, met some developers on the real estate space. I'm actually a real estate agent now, and started flipping homes, building homes for new, working with developers and general contractors to do so. But I also raised money for these real estate projects in about 6 months with really no base to go off of. I raised $1.2 million of investment money for 8
Incredible.
individual real estate projects. So it's been a journey, and it's especially been a journey the last year because, as everybody knows, these storms hit Tampa Bay, and the market has taken a bit of a hit, and that's like right when I had the bulk of my property. So it's definitely been a grinding year. I just went to an event on Friday night, and it was funny. I was talking to my friends, and I said, this has been a weird year because it feels like we've done a lot of really good things, but everything has been such a grind. It's like nothing has come easy this year. So I'm grateful to be in the spot that I'm in now. I'm grateful for the company. I'm grateful for the relationships that I have, and we're just getting started, man. This is the beginning of hopefully big things for the future.
Yeah, no, awesome, awesome, Dan. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. I mean, it's such a unique one, right? Starting
Yeah.
from ESPN radio host to senior living and now into
Yeah.
the real estate space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of alluded to this, but it seems like there's some very interesting stories in between there. Our audience will love to know about those early stages, right? They love to know about the ebb and ties of how you got to where you are today. Is there one or two standout stories or anecdote you can share with our audience about, what's it like to be an entrepreneur and really start from the bottom to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and it requires a somewhat complex answer because for me, this goes back to when I was like 4 and 5 years old, and that sounds ridiculous, but when I was a young kid, right, and I mentioned in the first segment that I came from a very sports rich family, especially hockey, and my grandfather used to take my family on hockey trips, and this is a true story. And so when I was 5 and 6 years old, I was getting up in front of a bus full of grown adults. I'm talking like 80, 85 people that were on a hockey bus trip. And I was giving predictions for what I thought the score was going to be of the game, who I thought was going to score. And here's 5-year-old me in front of a bunch of adults that have had a couple adult beverages over time. For me, it was just like it came so naturally. I was like excited to do it. Where like most 5, 6-year-olds would be terrified of that. I was
Yeah.
all in on it, and that's kind of where I got my voice. And then that led to the ESPN thing, where I was able to go on professional radio. I would say it's kind of funny. I had more fun doing a sports talk radio show in college with my friends than I did working for ESPN because it was so relaxed in college. We had such great conversations, and talking about sports and talking in general is kind of my thing. So now I wouldn't say there's really anything that was like, okay, this was the starting point. It's been an accumulation of just moments over time where it's like I would do something. I'm like, all right, that was good. Let's build on that. And I do something else and then something else. And again, I'll be 40 in March. And I was telling a guy a lot younger than me last week who was struggling in the marketing game. He was like, why am I not meeting people? Why do I go to these events and nothing really happens for me? And I said, buddy, it takes a long, long time to build relationships. And, I'm going on 40 this year, and I've been building relationships since I was 5 years old. I mean, I still have great contacts from elementary school that I still talk to. We do things for each other. We're still very close to each other's families. I mean, that's what marketing, that's what growing, that's what building is all about, is these genuine personal relationships. I was telling him, I don't do business with really anybody that I'm not close with. And some people may tend to go the other way, like you don't do business with friends, but I think it's the opposite. I do
Hmm.
business with people I trust, people whose families I know, people I feel comfortable with, and it's been very successful so far. So we continue to grow on it. We continue to build on the things that have made us successful at this point. We learn from our mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes. I tell people, don't be afraid to make mistakes. In fact, you need to make mistakes because you'll never get better if you're not finding out where your mistakes are and learning from them. So throwing a little bit of advice here and there, but at the end of the day, man, it's been a culmination of a long journey, and we're still just getting started.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Dan. And wouldn't it be crazy if one person who heard you talk when you were 5 and 6 in front of that bus is someone you meet later in life and be like, "Wait, I heard you, right? You were the kid that went in front of the bus giving
Yeah.
predictions on scores,
Yeah.
right? That's part of the power of networking, right? You just never know
That's
who you're
right.
gonna meet later in life when you plant that seed earlier on.
That's right.
Dan, what would you say is some of the biggest financial lessons you learned transitioning from being a healthcare executive to now being a real estate entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. The easiest answer I can give you is no matter how much you think something is going to be, times it by two. Especially when you're
Okay.
starting a company. It is not cheap to start a company. To do it the right way, right? If you want to get all your
Mhm.
bases set, you're doing your LLC the right way. You're bringing on social media. You're working with the right people. You're getting into good events where you're meeting people of worth, right? The stuff all costs money, and especially in the real estate space, man. I've done 8 renovations now, and every time we get a little bit closer to the goal of the renovation budget, but that number keeps going up because we realize over time that what you think something is going to be, man, bake in another 1.5 times to 2 times what you think it's worth, because then, it's one of those situations where if it isn't 2 times what you thought it'd be, then you just saved yourself money. And so, money is how things go, especially in the real estate space when you're doing renovation projects and things of that nature. So I always tell people, if you got money in the bank and you think something is going to be X, take X and times it by 2, and then you'll be safe. So that's the best advice I can give, mainly on the real estate side
Yeah,
for
just
financial.
budget a little bit more than
Yeah.
you're expecting,
Yeah.
right? You could leave a
Yeah.
little bit margin of error there.
And
Um,
honestly, and sorry, one more thing that I think is worth
yeah,
mentioning
mhm,
is,
for sure.
I'm about to enter my 3rd year doing this, and I can't say that I've made a ton of money so far. And I'm okay admitting that because I've been blessed with still having the senior living consulting thing that helps pay the bills, and that keeps me steady going forward. But anybody who thinks they're going to dive into an entrepreneur day one and just start making money, I've learned at a young age, I was told at a young age, it takes most successful entrepreneurs 2 years to build a business that actually starts making money. So if you think you're going to dive into this game day one and start making money, I mean, I hope that that's true, but usually it isn't.
Yeah, I mean, that's just reality, right? I think and that's great advice for folks out there who's expecting on day one they're gonna become a millionaire type of
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dan,
Especially in the real estate space, it doesn't happen that way.
yeah, for folks who do still want to enter that space, Dan, would you give some advice on how do you evaluate whether a property is better suited for flipping, new construction versus just being like a short-term rental?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the answer is simple, right? Do your research. I don't do anything without consulting at least 2 or 3 minds that I know are smarter than me when it comes to this stuff. So I very rarely, if ever, make unilateral decisions, right? When I see something and I'm looking at it, I've always been somebody to admit to myself, you're usually not the smartest person in the room. And that's not to demean myself. I'm a pretty smart guy, but I've been super successful in my life, always consulting people that I knew were smarter than I was. So my broker, for example, she's done this for 12 years, the flipping game. She's a brilliant agent just on her own. But when I met her, we instantly kind of connected because it was pretty clear that she had done the renovation space for about a decade before that. And so anytime I get a property, even if I think it's a home run, slam dunk, no question about it, I still send it to her. And I say, I think this is a good deal. This seems like something that's going to work, but I need you to tell me that as well. And when she does come back to me and say, okay, this is a good one, let's move forward with this, then I feel comfortable knowing, all right, not only do I feel good about it, but someone smarter than me also feels good about it too. So, you have to do your homework. You have to make sure you know the comps in the area. Again, budget higher than expected. Make sure that the
Mhm.
margins are there. Make sure the money you're getting, the hard money, is not too overly expensive, or the terms are not too tight. Because what I learned this year, for example, the one that I'm currently finishing up,
Right.
usual permit time in Tampa Bay, 10 to 14 days after submitting plans. The one I just did took me 135 days. And that was
Oh,
because of the storms from last year. There's such a backlog of houses waiting for permits that 10 days turned into 135 days.
that's insane.
You can imagine what that did to the bottom line. So, but
Right.
thankfully, I was cognizant of that might be an option. So I baked the numbers for that, and I think we'll be okay.
Got it. Wow, that's something that people don't really consider, right? The factors outside your control. that
Yes,
sometimes just makes a great deal be possibly a break-even deal, but that's okay, right?
exactly.
Because you have other things in the oven that you're working on.
That's right.
And then, like, for people out there who's unfamiliar, how do you think about raising capital? Like, do you usually just do it through self-funding, private investors, joint ventures? Like, what is your approach towards that?
So far, because what I've been raising, $1.2 million sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. It's a good chunk of change. But for me, I went to people that, again, I had built relationships with over the last 2 to 3 decades, and I said, "Hey, here's what I'm about to do. Here's what it looks like. Here's the projections. Here's the numbers." But I
Mhm.
always followed up with, "You guys know me, and you know that if I'm bringing you something, it's because I believe in it." And what else I did was, because I was so green and raw at all this stuff, when I wrote the contracts, and this was very risky, but it did pay off, I put in the contract a guaranteed return of at least their initial investment.
Oh, wow.
And so I went out on a limb and I took that chance to say, listen, I know that this is new to me and you're going out on a limb trusting me on this, but I have enough confidence in myself and my abilities to assess anything, whether it's real estate, senior living, sports, doesn't matter, relationships. I'm able to quantify that I think this is a good opportunity. And because I feel that way, I'm gonna write in the contract that I am willing to give back at least your initial investment. And the goal is always, your percentage return, which to date, outside of one deal that broke even, everybody was able to receive their anticipated result back. And I'm proud of that. But again, I
Very
also,
impressive.
because I was, requesting something and asking people to trust me, I felt like I had to give a little bit back to them. And by guaranteeing their at least return back on initial investment, I felt like, you give me a little, I'll give you a little, and we'll do this together.
I mean, that's impressive. I wanna work with you, Dan, with guaranteed like that, right? I can
Yeah,
see that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then how do you kinda allocate your time between, things that are more, I would say, like, short-term games, like flips, versus, like, the long-term wealth building side of the house, right? Like, do you have like, a mental picture in your mind, like, this is how much time and investment I wanna be on this side versus the other end, or just a little bit more of a waiting for the egg to hatch type of game?
Yeah, it's I don't know if this is the most correct answer, but I'm able to balance it all just because I have a very hyperactive brain. And for me, balancing I actually operate better when I'm balancing 6 or 7 things at a time. I know that sounds crazy, but I have a very hyperactive brain. And the more that I'm moving and the more that I'm maneuvering and making things happen, the better I work. And so, it's a little bit different, right? Like in the investment phase, right? If you're doing a flip, that's a hurry up and wait type thing. So, for
Mhm.
example, you have a house that you want to get, you put an offer in, you have 10 days to close, you have to raise that initial capital through hard money to get the money to do the project. So, I have to hurry up and raise the money, account for the money, get it to the hard money lenders, close on the loan, buy the house. And then you sit back and say, okay, you go let my guys go do the work now. So a lot of the long-term investment stuff, a lot of it happens on the front end. Now I still oversee and maintain the relationships with my subs and my GCs to make sure everything's going well. They send me pictures. We have a really good routine going now. Very big into like operating, procedures and standards and things like that. Like very by the book type things. I learned that in my senior living career. You have to have procedures if you want to be a successful company. On the short-term rental side, we were able to acquire a very AI 2025 version of a rental program, and it does a lot of the work for us, which is fantastic. It automatically responds to messages. It does a lot of the little nitty-gritty things. It does it on its own because it's a lot of AI generated stuff. So honestly, if you combine the two things with the senior living thing, and I have this massive deal down in Sebring that I'm currently raising money for, trying to find a buyer for a 388-acre parcel of land down in Sebring.
Oh,
I have that
that's
going
huge.
on. Yeah, I mean, but for me, man, it's like I wake up every day and no 2 days are the same. So it's like it's the best thing of doing what I do because yeah, there's a lot of little things that you have to deal with, you have to navigate. But at the end of the day, wouldn't change a thing because I have found a pretty good workflow that works for me. And I keep everything together. And I have this beautiful whiteboard next to me that I have all my notes down. And we look at that once a day, then we just go forward and do the job.
That's awesome. So, no, speaking of AI, Dan, I know you mentioned it. How has that impact your industry? Have you seen? I mean, it's really revolutionized a lot of things around the world right now.
It has, and I think for the real estate side, I think it's still developing, and I think there's still a lot more that's going to go into it. I've seen things that are coming down the pipeline, or maybe have already been enacted. That's AI will be able to produce architectural designs for you. I mean, you talk about speeding up the process. You can't beat that, and it's my hope that again, I feel horrible for the city of St. Pete that had to deal with such an influx of permits at one time after the storms. My hope is that AI can come in at some point and automate this stuff. And when you pop it in, AI goes through it, reads it, double checks it, spits it out in one day. I can't tell you how much money that would save someone like me and my developers if we could get our plans back almost immediately, because AI is ripping through it, say, here are the things that need to be fixed, or this is good, spit it out and go. So I think we're still kind of on the forefront of what it could look like for the space, and I'm excited to learn more about it. I've actually recently, in the last couple months, started to wrap my head around it, that like this is going to be a thing, and whether I like it or not, I need to learn about it now before it really gets too big and then it's too much to basically digest. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it'll be great for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's very disruptive, I would say right
Yeah.
now, right? But
Yeah.
it's like you gotta get with the program where you kind of fall
That's right.
behind, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of here to stay.
Absolutely.
And then here at Profit Powerhouse, we really believe that teamwork make the dream work. You know, the great sports saying from all ages. What would you say if for someone who's looking to become a real estate entrepreneur, who should it be their like first one, two, and three hires? Well, what have you done, right? And your approach.
Yeah. So it's a great question. And you brought up, teamwork makes the dream work. And one of the things I like to tell people is the Bird 2 Bay name. It means I came from Pittsburgh to Tampa Bay, but the number two always represents me plus somebody else or something else, because I've never succeeded in anything just doing it on my own. So the teamwork element is the number two, me plus somebody else that got something done. So I'm a true believer in that. But,
For sure.
I just think that if you're getting into the space, you got to know the right people. And one of the things that I kind of latched on to early was a really good developer that had really good teams. And that's hard to find, man. It's really, really hard to find a good developer that has good general contractors that have maintained and they have the ability to oversee their subcontractors, and their subcontractors do good work. But more importantly for me, I think, again, I go back to my broker that I teamed up with pretty early in the game. And she has taught me so much about being a real estate agent, understanding how real estate works, understanding trends, understanding the ebbs and flows of the market, that has allowed me to do the job a little bit better. Because without that information, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And I've learned so much from people that were already embedded in the game that said, these are the things you need to look out for, because if you don't, you're going to get railroaded. So if someone's getting into the game, talk to everybody that you know. But it also is incumbent on people to understand that a lot of people are kind of full of it. So it's a game. It's a game of figuring out like who's legitimate and who knows their stuff, and who is somebody that you can kind of latch onto and say, okay, I can learn from this person. Fortunately for me, I've met a lot of people that I've learned from, and I continue to learn every day. And I like being in rooms where I'm learning from people, because that's how I continue my ascent.
You know, it's very important to build the right team around you, right? As an entrepreneur, as a CEO, you wear so many hats, but is it how can you really focus on your business and your growth? And you need those trusted advisors around you to make that happen,
Absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
Dan, turning to marketing here, are you a social media guy? Do you do Instagram? Do you do Tik? Are you TikToking these days? Right? How are you getting the word out to the young folks out there?
I'm about to plug my PR teams because they're amazing. So it's a great question. When I first started, I was kind of the generation before social media, right? Like I didn't grow up with social media. It kind of hit early in college. I remember being a freshman in college, and that's when Facebook came out. And so, we had fun with it. We had like instant messenger, when we were in high school through college. But the social media game really hit after I was out of college and kind of doing my adult life. So I always understood that it was important, but I just don't know how to do it as well as these younger guys and gals do. So about 4 months ago, I hired a social media and PR company, which is how I got in touch with you. So obviously I'm grateful for that. And it's just a game changer, man. The amount of stuff that they're putting out that really tells my story almost better than I can tell my own story. And it's got flair, and it's got personality, and it's very much me, who I am as a person. So I invite anybody to go to the Berkeley Bay Partners Instagram page. You'll get to know me pretty quickly because the way the videos are. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about Rosarium is the name of the group. If you're in Tampa Bay, look up Rosarium. They're the best. I've been thankful for them, and they've been great to work with because they genuinely listen to me, right? They, from the start, said, we wanted this to be your brand. We want you to tell your story. We're not going to tell you how to do it. And so about 4 months into it, when I started, I was very skeptical because, again, like I didn't grow up with it. I always was just like, yeah, there's got to be a way to do it without it. But man, once you have it, it's like, all right, I get it. This is definitely working. And so I'm grateful that I did it, and I'll continue to do it into the future.
Yeah, no, really the power of social media, right? I have also learned a little bit from my daughter about the power of TikTok, and he's showing me just how fast you can go viral, how fast you can kind of blow up on there, right? And it really influence, the number of leads you get, the kind of people you can connect with. I know you're a big networking guy, and that just opened you up to a whole new audience that you may not have access to before,
I
right?
mean, I mean,
They're not the type to go to conferences, like let's
yeah,
just say,
and
right?
look at this. I mean, this conversation today was based off the fact that we
Yeah.
connected through you through social media, and here we are talking about it. And you're in LA, and I'm in Tampa. It's like we would have never connected if it weren't for social media, and that's awesome that we were able to do that. So again, I'm thankful for it. And if you're my age or a little bit older and you want to really roll out the business, it's the way to do it. I can't deny that anymore.
No, absolutely, Dan. Dan, so how would you kind of define success? I know that's a big word, right? In your business and personally. And to go a little bit more into it, I have entrepreneurs on this call who, they're more of a blended style of entrepreneur, right? They put their business and their personal side together. It's all one blended thing. And there's the other type that says, no, absolutely not. Family is family, business is business. It's kept completely separate. I have two different lives, and essentially that, right? Which camp do you fall into, or is it more of a hybrid for you?
So I'm more in the blending of both. And again, I go back to that. Again, I've done most of my business, if not all of my business, with people I know and trust, and that comes from long-standing, long-growing relationships. And so you don't get that without intertwining some of the personal stuff. And for me, you know, some of my closest friends are people that I do business with, and it's been great. And the thing about it is the people who you thought you were close to, once you start doing business with them, you find out pretty quickly whether or not they're in your camp or they're not.
Oh,
And so it's almost a way to eliminate some people who are maybe are just on the coattails or just trying to like drag along behind you. But no, I am a true believer in if I like you and I trust you, I want to know everything about you, and I've always been that way. I've always been someone that is interested in people's personal lives and how they're doing. And that goes back to the mental health thing. If someone, I am able to easily recognize when I think one of my friends is not doing well because I know them so well. And so I genuinely enjoy building relationships with people. And then, bringing their success into mine. You asked about success. To me, it's about making everybody around you better and richer too. I mean, let's be honest. Like if you're doing investments, you need to be making money for people. And I've been successfully able to do that. And we have had our things that we're working through, things that we're learning along the way. But to me, success is making people around you better, happier, stronger, healthier, mentally, physically, and sharing this success with people around you. And so far, I've been able to do that. I'm looking forward to doing more of that in the future.
that's beautiful, Dan.
Thanks.
Dan, would love to be your friend. And on the side of you're transitioning from a W-2 executive, right,
Yeah.
to an entrepreneur, is there a certain personality type that you would say, or type of person I just go with, right, that you think would make that transition successful? I'm sure there's listeners out there who are in the same boat as you are, right? Maybe they're a successful executive at a startup or a corporation that says, "Man, I'm hearing this, but I'm still afraid to make that move. I'm still hesitating." Like, what would you advise for those folks out there who's like still a little bit in between that camp, but maybe fit your kind of persona, right? Of where they are in their life.
Yeah. So what I would say to that is super important thing is to be authentic. Most smart businessmen and women know when you're full of it. And so, I knew that I had the ability to go out there because I have a very unique skill set in the sense that I'm able to do a lot of different things at a lot of different times. And I always joke that I feel like I know somebody for everybody. And if I don't know that person, I know somebody that does. And that just comes from authenticity. I am a little rough around the edges. I'm a little sharp sometimes, but people know that about me. They expect that from me. And I always say I treat people fairly, one way or the other, whether it's good thing, bad thing, differently. Like I'm just an authentic person. And, because of that, my word tends to hold some pretty good weight because I'm not the type to lie. And I'm somebody that will tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. And I always tell one of the things I always tell my developers and the guys that work with me is don't tell me what I want to hear, tell me what I need to hear. Because I can always accept the truth. If you tell me the truth, we can work to even if the truth is a problem, we'll figure out what the problem is and we'll work through figuring out and fixing it. Because mistakes happen. And again, you have to make mistakes in order to be good at what you do. So for me, it's about authenticity. And I knew I could make the jump because I had the skill set, I had the base of people that were very well connected, and they wanted to bring me in on things that maybe I wasn't able to be in on so much because I was in a corporate world and I had, loyalties to that side. But once
Mhm.
you break free and you break off, you're kind of free to do whatever you want at that point. And I knew I had the right personality, the right authenticity, and the right connections of people to do things that I'm doing now. And yeah, I mean, trust me, there are times where I wish, like, man, if I get that 2 week paycheck, I would consider going back to that because this entrepreneur game is really difficult. And there's times with it's a lot of uncertainty. When you're in a corporate job, you're getting that check every 2 weeks or twice a month. You don't really have that in the entrepreneurship world, but the freedom that I have to make moves and be my own decision maker with the help of people around me is a beautiful thing. And it's something that I don't know I could ever go back to or go away from, I should say.
Yeah, no, thank you for adding that drop of realism, right, to people's
Yeah.
brain right now and how they should be really assessing this. Do they feel prepared? Do they have all the checklist items that you have
Right.
mentioned, right? Do they have the right networking in place, the structure in place before they take that next step? So, Dan, before we turn into the more, I would say, mundane, some people consider topic of financial tax management, I would love to ask you a fun question before we dive into there, right? And there's a question I love to ask guests, and I get some wildly different answers here, right? So, say one day a rocket ship landed in front of your door, and inside it, when you open it, is a treasure chest of $1 billion.
Woo.
What would be three things you want to do and to spend the money on? Right? It's almost like three wishes of a genie, and the condition is that money disappears after 1 month.
1 month. Wow.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
gone. So you cannot save it. You cannot throw in the bank and earn interest off it. Right? Any kind of those kind of type of answers.
Okay. Man, that's putting me on
You
the
got to
spot, man.
actively spend the
Man,
money on three things.
man,
What would it
that
be?
is.
No, people. I'm sure people dream of this, right? Like, hey, man, if I win the lottery and there was a huge Powerball, right, just a week ago, right? I think it was over $1 billion. What would it be the three things you would spend the money on?
So the first thing I would do is I'd give a big chunk of it to my girlfriend because she works in
Ah,
the
so sweet.
nonprofits, the nonprofit space, and I know that she would do some really great things with it. She would get it to the people that would do good by it. We hear kind of in the news now about these NGOs that are not doing great things with the money. She would be somebody that would do really good things with the money. So she would get a big chunk of it because I could trust her to put it in the right spots, and it would benefit a lot of people. And that's probably the first thing. Oh man, the second thing is we're big travelers, so I'd probably buy a private jet. Um,
Nice.
someone that can fly us around. And the other thing with that too is that allows me to go and expand the brand across the country and across the world. So multi-purpose, mainly for the traveling feature where we love to travel, and to not have to fly commercial would not be the worst thing in the world.
Oh no, sounds like the
Um,
best thing ever.
but that would be it. And then, obviously, make sure the family's set up for generations to come. I have two young nephews that would be set up and make sure that my family's taken care of. And then, I'd buy myself a pretty nice house. I'm not going to lie. Would like to be set up and, have a space for entertaining so that the people that you talk about success, right? Enjoying success with people would love to have a place where people could come over and spend time and we can enjoy our successes at my house and spend a lot of really good time and build some good memories together. So, man, you put me on the spot, but right off the top of my head, those would be the three things.
No, that's a beautiful and wholesome answer, right? I'm hoping that after we get this recording done, you can show this episode to your girlfriend, right? I'm sure
Yeah.
you gave a huge shout out, so I'm sure she'll
Yeah.
love this answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So now more diving into the financial tax management side of things, Dan. So here at Profit Powerhouse, we'd love to know what helps you sustain your business, what keeps it long running. And for us, we believe, it's about, getting your books right, make sure your tax done. All those things that are on the compliance side of the house is done correctly is what you make sure you can sleep better at night, right? And not have Uncle Sam knocking on your door. So how do you approach managing the financial side of your business, Dan?
It's easy. I hired a CPA. He was the first guy I hired when I started out of the gate. And you talk about sleeping at night. I don't even think about my stuff because the guy that I hired just takes care of it. And I'm glad you brought that up because you talked about people that you should hire right off the bat. Your CPA needs to be probably number one because I'm not going to sit here and learn tax code. I'm not going to sit here. All I do is allocate my expenses in QuickBooks. My guy takes it, runs with it, and I never think about it. And it's such a beautiful thing because he makes sure that I'm compliant. He makes sure all my taxes are taken care of. He makes sure that I'm getting a salary every month. I'm paying myself a certain amount of money that he facilitates. And I can't imagine where I would be if I had to do that stuff on my own because it's not talk about having a skill set. That is not my skill set. I can openly admit that type of the like you said, minutia type stuff. It's not my thing. So he was one of the first guys that I hired, and that was a good move because he handles everything for me, and I can just sleep at night knowing that stuff is taken care of.
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in that cycle, right? Where they're doing
Yeah,
things that may not be in their forte, right?
right.
And then that's how they start disliking the entrepreneurial journey and not liking what
Great
they're
point.
doing, right?
It's a great
Right?
point. And it goes
Yeah.
back to the social media thing where I don't enjoy creating social media content. So I hired somebody to do it and like wouldn't trade it for the world, would never go back to trying to do it myself. Cause when I see their stuff and I see myself, I'm like, man, I was not good at it. They're much better than I. And again, I can admit that. So you got to be able to admit when people are better than you at things and just let them do it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, Dan. So, given that you seem like you're a great relationship with your CPA, is there any, tax deductions, write-off, financial metrics that you have learned over the year from working closely with your CPA that you're like, man, this is something that I've like picked up over the years that's really beneficial to how I sustain my business?
I think because he is so hands on and he's so in touch with my business because we talk a lot and I let him know when things are happening. He
Hmm.
basically just says to me, just make sure your QuickBooks is up to date with all your allocations and like I'll take care of the rest. So I wish I had a better answer for that question, but he's so hands on and he's so in tune with what my business is and what we do that he just knows. He's getting to the point now where I've had him for, man, it's been 2.5 years already, where he can see transactions and know exactly what they're for. And that's a cool thing because it's nice when you have someone doing the thinking for you on things you don't know anything about. So again, I'm blessed to have that relationship and it's been incredibly beneficial. If you're doing anything that involves a lot of transactions, like, I send wires almost every week for renovation projects. He's able to see that, recognize it, and then basically allocate it before I even get to it. So it's been a blessing. And you have anything that requires a lot of transactions, get yourself a good CPA.
No, amazing, amazing. What advice would you give other business owners? Like, is there a certain dollar threshold, complexity of transaction, number of transactions, even right when it comes to like when is that a good time for them to outsource to a CPA? If that's your advice there.
Yeah, for me it was right off the top, because as my former business partner used to say, I won't look good in orange. So
That's a
I
good one.
just for me, man, I don't take chances on things I don't know a lot about, and especially when I know there's professionals that literally do this for a living. So when I decided about 4 months into the business that real estate was going to be the thing, and there was going to be a lot of transactions involved, that's when I was like, that's not something that I'm going to do myself. So when I pretty much realized that there was going to be a lot of money going this way and that way and up here and down there and it was like, okay, let me get somebody that's a professional because I'm going to mess this up the first time I try to do it on my own.
Absolutely. That's beautiful advice there. Okay, Dan, looking ahead, what's kind of next for you and your business? Any exciting plans or projects on the horizon here?
Yeah. So it's different every day, man. Everything is so fluid, and that's what I love about it. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I'm working on a massive project down in Sebring, Florida, right next to the racetrack, right next to the airport. Working on finding a buyer for a property down there, 600 new builds. There's a golf course involved. I mean, it's a big time deal. And so that's kind of the thing that I'm focusing on right now. I'm working very heavily with my construction guys, renovating some of the old senior living buildings that I used to be a part of. I'm helping, I'm kind of helping my girlfriend who is throwing an event in Atlanta in 2 weeks for intergenerational mental health. So I'm helping her on that front, being a part of that. And, doing podcasts and working on the social media game, trying to grow the content. And then, we're getting into the busy season here. So the short-term rental space is really starting to pick up in the sense that this is when people are booking homes for Thanksgiving and Halloween and Christmas and New Year's and all of the holidays coming up. So, man, it's maintaining the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis and taking the phone calls when they're necessary. Hey, I got something I want to run by you. Do you mind talking to one of my guys? And I'm like, man, let's do it. So again, the beauty of it is no 2 days are the same. And every day something new comes up and we take it in stride and we just keep moving. So it's been fun, and where the future holds, the beauty about this is I have no idea, but that's the exciting part about it, and I'm excited to see what happens.
No, obviously it sounds super exciting, Dan, right? And the impact that you're going to make in your city is going to be insurmountable,
That's
right?
the
It's like
goal. That's the goal.
seeing what you're building, seeing the development, seeing it actually come to fruition. I'm sure it's
Yes, sir.
warms your heart, right? When it actually
It
kind of comes
does.
to happen, even if it
It
takes
does.
multiple years, which these things
It
usually do,
does. Yeah,
right?
and that's kind of the end game, right? Is you go through and you deal with the obstacles you have to get through in order to make, and that's in any business, right? It's not real
Right,
estate specific. That's anything. But when you
right.
get to that end game, the final goal, and you can see a lot of the stuff on my Berg Debate Partners Instagram page where we do some really good work, and it's awesome to walk into a house. It's 100 years old. You bought it. It needs completely torn down to the studs. And then, 6, 8, 12 months later, you walk in and it's a brand new, just beautiful house. You did that for a family that's now going to make memories in that house. That's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, for sure. Dan, we're at our final advice segment, which is the final part of our podcast. And if you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting their entrepreneurial journey, what would it be? Someone who want to be Dan Fabrizi, right? 3 simple steps, or 1, 2, or 3 steps that will get them off their couch and get them started on this journey. What kind of advice would you like to give them?
First and foremost, you got to know who you are. It's so important to understand what it is that makes you tick as a person. This isn't about anybody else. When you're starting out, you're starting the business, it needs to be about what are your capabilities? What are you good at? What do you struggle at? And then, once you realize or you understand that you are somebody that can do this, then it's about relationship building. I keep going back to relationship building. It's about taking the time to get to know people and understand what they're about and what they like and what they don't like, and being genuine about it, being authentic about it. This whole life, everything that we do in life is about the relationships that you hold and the relationships that you build, business wise, personal wise. It doesn't matter, right? If you're somebody that doesn't have good, organic, strong relationships, you won't be successful in anything. And so I have really focused on, caring about people and understanding what it is that makes them happy. And, I'm also someone where if I meet people and the personalities or the morals or goals don't align, then I don't associate with them, even if I think they can make me money in business. So I'm always somebody where I got to like you to want to do business with you, but you also got to like yourself too. Because if you are out there faking it, or maybe you're not in the right mental space to do the type of things that get a business started, maybe it's not the right time. And, I spent 3.5 years doing therapy, really understanding the things that made me tick, that made me who I am as a person. There's still things that I struggle with every day. I mean, I'm nowhere near the finished product, but we keep growing on it every day. We keep learning more things about ourselves, learning things about the people around us, and that will never stop. I'll do that till the day I die. So the advice is know yourself, get to know people, treat people well, right? It's not worth saving a couple $1,000s over to ruin a relationship. So do right by your people. They'll do right by you. And that's something you can build off of.
Know who you are. Make sure you know who you tick as a person. Be genuine. Love yourself. And treat others well, right?
That's right.
All
That's
great,
right.
all great people advice that we should, not even as a business, but just has really human lessons that we should all really inherit
And the last
here.
thing I'd say too is it's hard to do this, but like I try not to take things so seriously all the time. We have a very short time on this earth, a very short time to make an impact. So, there's going to be things that we deal with. There's times where I get super frustrated. My girlfriend would vouch for that, but it's tough sometimes. But at the end of the day, like, again, we only have a short amount of time to make an impact here, and can't take it that seriously. There's times for serious, but there's also time to take a step back and say, we're lucky to be here. Let's make the best of our time while we're here.
Yeah, no, be grateful for what we have, right? Don't always try to be too greedy, right? And just enjoy the life that you have, right? Maybe make that one extra TikTok out there, Dan, and make someone smile. And
There you
happy,
go. There you
right?
go. There you go. Absolutely.
Nah, Dan, that was fantastic. Thank you for being on the show and really sharing your entrepreneurial journey with us, right? We learned so much about real estate and definitely some life lessons there in between. For the last section, we always love to leave our guests, 30 seconds, 1 minute to give any kind of shout out, promotional things you want to do. Dan, anything you want to say to the audience at the end?
Not really. I think we covered a lot of space here. Again, I invite you to kind of tag along. There's a billion people doing what I'm doing. I try to be a little bit unique and different in the way that I do things. Would love for you to grab a follow on Berg Debate Partners on the Instagram, on TikTok. Connect with me. Let's have a conversation. I'm kind of open to talk about anything, anytime, anywhere. So whether it's senior living or real estate or mental health or, nonprofit work or, donating and things like that. I'm an open book, man. Just like I've been an open book with you, I'd love to be that for people who want to connect with genuine people, because unfortunately, I feel like that's maybe a dwindling population of authentic, real people left. I like to think I'm one of them, and I'd love to connect with people in the future.
I absolutely believe that, Dan, especially AI taking over right now.
There you
right?
go.
There's AI agents out there, and
Yeah.
there's actually a lot of fake people. So your statement's more true than ever. So
You
if
got
you
it.
want to
Yep.
connect with Dan, we'll make sure to leave all his social media links in our show notes below. Feel free to click on them, and yeah, you can tell Dan is a great conversationer, and he will have a lot of a chat with you. So Dan, thank you for being on the show. If a year later, if there's some exciting updates, we'd love to have you back. If you like, we'd love to be on.
I'd love to come back, and I really appreciate the opportunity. It was great talking with you.
Thank you so much, Dan. Everyone out there, thank you for listening. We'll make sure to put all the relevant links in our show notes below. Thanks for tuning in. Alan out.